Explain the premium business. What does that mean?
The premium business was, there was a company in Chicago that had items that was selling for 99 cents. If you filled out a card with $5 purchase from that particular store, you were entitled to buy a certain pot or a pen or so forth for 99 cents. And for every account I opened, I used to get $5 for the account. Being that I was so well known in Gary, and the fellow went ahead and sold me the truck. It was a huge panel black truck. And I started off on, the man started off on a business, and I started to open up the premium business in Gary. I went into the store and I would tell them, here, I'm going to leave you 10 items on consignment, and I'm going to give you all these cards, and you give it to the customers, and every time the customer makes a purchase, you know, and the customer punch out, and you'll buy it, and the customer will pay you 95 cents for the, or 99 cents for that item. And that's what it would cost you. What you do is you build up a trade. It won't cost you anything. The merchandise I leave on consignment. If you sell it, fine, you get the money for it. If you don't sell it, I'll take it back.
So how much did those pots and pans generally cost you that you sold for 99 cents?
It used to cost me around 75 cents.
So it wasn't a big profit on it.
Well, the profit was, especially the first year, I opened up many new accounts.
So you got $5 for each of the new accounts you
That's
opened.
right. And then I used to go around, make my rounds every week. I went around the small towns and done that. And then after I worked for him for about a year, this fellow that got me in there, he says, I got a better deal for you. You're going to go into the trading stamps. You sell them trading stamps. Like they have these blue chip stamps and green stamps. You trade them, get them. You sell them the stamps, the books, with a name on it. After they fill a book of $50 or whatever amount they specify, they'll get one of those premiums free. So I used to go and sell those books at $20 for a badge. It used to cost me, I think, $10 or $5. Sell for $20 the badge of stamps and all the books to give out and so forth with their name on it. And once they got in their name on it, then they had to keep on buying more and more. Instead of buying $20, used to buy $50 worth of books, $100 worth of stamps. There was, I think a book of stamps was either $2 or $5. I don't remember how much a book of stamps they were. That's how I built up the premium trade.
So how long were you in the premium business?
I was in premium business until I almost came out to LA. As a matter of fact, while I was in the premium business, I also moved out there and I went into a small grocery store. And I kept the premium business downstairs and the grocery store upstairs.
And the premium business was in the basement?
In the basement, yes. And I kept it. All I had to do was have is storage. And then I built my own home. From the basement, I built my own home. Where you remember, we lived on 7th, 6th and Taft Place. You don't
Gary,
remember?
yes, I remember the
All right. From that business, I bought a lot and I built a home there.
So you were, you got into this business around 1935, when Sean was born, around then, and it treated you very well then.
Yeah.
Do you remember how much you paid for the lot?
Well, let me see. I had a lot that they wanted $400 on 4th Avenue. That was north of 5th, which was a heavy thoroughfare. And I wanted to have a certain kind of house built on it. Well, the FHA will not give me the amount I wanted for that particular neighborhood, particular lot. So I went back to the Gary Land Company and I bought another lot on the corner 6th and Taft Place. There I was eligible for all the amount of money that I needed to build the house. And then I made a contract with this fellow named Deitch, who was a builder, and he drew plans. He's the one that had this California style home plans made. I was one of the first ones to build a California home. All steel and stone, no wood, because that time he was able to buy steel cheaper than wood, because there was a steel factory right in Gary. So all the door box, the window sills, and all the beams, everything was from steel, except the roof, the shingles they had, you know. And the wood I had was knotty pine, and I had a back porch, a closed-in back porch, but here it was all knotty pine, ceiling and wall and floor. And the kitchen was, the walls were linoleum walls, linoleum walls. And I had also to match the kitchen, the linoleum floor. The rest of the rooms had, what do you call those, parquet floors.
Wood?
Parquet floors. All the rooms had parquet floors, and even the woodwork was black rubberized woodwork. You know, around there?
Around the edges, the
Around
molding?
the edges, all around the house. I also had 2 bedrooms and a den. The den, of course, was the back room. And I also had the provisions where I had built a staircase to go upstairs, and they had enough plumbing and everything to build 2 bedrooms and a bathroom upstairs if and when I needed. But they put in one of those disappearing staircase, you know, push the button, the staircase came down. And I wanted the staircase to go up, it went up, it was right in the hallway. I had that. And that's where he was born, that's where Phyllis was born, while we were living in that house.
Dad, we're gonna have to come to an end pretty soon. When we get together next time, I'd like to talk about Sherwin's birth, my birth, and what your family was like then, what was going on with Fran and Bernice and the other kids, and we'll do that next time we get together.
Can you show part of it what happened?
What?
Can I see part of it what
sure.
happened?
Just a sec.
Listen to him, I think, because I don't care for football
Okay.
very much.
Hey, Dad, last time we were talking about the,
I don't want to
if you don't want to hear Mother, you can just go into the other room.
I am, it's okay, I'm going, okay, go ahead.
Okay. Last time we were talking, we were started to talk about your starting a family. Sherwin was born in 1935.
Yes,
Before Sherwin was born, you had moved to Gary,
right.
and you said something about going back to.
You didn't move to Gary, you lived in Chicago. You want to tell, oh, shouldn't I tell you? All right.
Well, Mother, you can come in here and join us. There's no problem.
We didn't move to Gary. We lived in Chicago. Was born in Chicago. We moved to Gary after he was born.
Okay, Mother. Why don't you sit down next to Dad,
Dad doesn't remember half the things
Yeah.
he sent you.
and you can join in and give the accurate.
No, let him talk.
Well, you can talk too. Here, we'll put a chair right here next to Dad for you. You can come in, and you can sit down, and we'll have both of you. So we'll get the facts.
Michael, let Dad tell you the story. Go ahead.
After all, when you get to a certain age, you get feeble-minded a little bit, and I'm getting feeble-minded, forgetfulness. I don't remember a lot of things. Mama has a better memory than I have. So if she would join me and tell you more about it, then probably than I can. But as far as I remember, we did live in Gary. But just before Sherman was born, she went home. She was born at a called Presbyterian Hospital, if I'm not mistaken.
That was in July of 1935?
Right, right. Because I lived in Gary, and I had to travel. I remember on a Saturday, I got a call all of a sudden Saturday that Sally's going to the hospital.
Who called you?
I think my sister or somebody from North. I was in Gary. So I always took my laundry home, and they gave me clean laundry to last me for a week. So I was so excited about, I didn't have a car that time, I think. I had to take the South Shore line. I left my dirty laundry on the, on the train. I came home without the laundry. The dirty laundry I left on the train. That's how I remember that I was in Gary at that time as Sherman was born.
Now, you came home on a Saturday on the train?
Yes.
At that time, you were in the premium business, weren't you?
No, I worked that time for Uncle or some. I worked in the meat department. I don't remember if it was for Uncle or for somebody else. I worked for somebody else at that time.
And do you remember about what time you got to the hospital?
To the hospital? Oh, it must have been after 12. I don't think I saw it. It wouldn't let me in. The
Was it-
following morning, I went ahead, being that I had no clothes, I went ahead and bought one of those round straw hats, and I bought white shoes and white pants and a black shirt, and I was dressed up like that famous actor. What was
Humphrey
it?
Bogart?
Not Humphrey Bogart. Harold Lloyd.
You were a Harold Lloyd look-alike, right?
Harold Lloyd look-alike. And I came in, and Mama looked at me. Is that you? I says, yes, that was me. And I looked at Sherman, and he said, is he beautiful? I said, sure. He looked like a temple monkey if I ever saw one. Long, skinny, with a big nose. He looked like a typical monkey if I ever saw one. So it was a beautiful baby. I agreed with her, yes, it is a beautiful baby. She said, but never again. She saw our time, And, well, after she saw him once or twice, she says, we'll try another 10 years later. So it turned out the 10 years we cut it down to 3. I think there was 3 years apart between you two.
That's right.
Yes, so we cut it down to 3.
So when you got to the hospital, had Sherwin been born yet? You said you got to the hospital after midnight. That would be.
Yes, Sherman was born.
So Sherwin was born on Saturday?
On Saturday, yeah.
Do you remember who was there? Who took Sally to the hospital?
Well, there was my sisters there, my folks, and it was walking distance from the house.
So Sally lived with your parents when she moved
Yeah,
back
when
to.
she came home. And then part-time with my parents, then part-time with her mother. And, you know, he was a second Jesus Christ. When he brought him home in July, he was afraid he's going to catch death of cold. So they dressed him up so doggone hot, he broke out with prickly heat all over. So the doctor came to visit him. He says, we're going to see what do you want to do? Cook him alive? Leave him naked. Let him dry out.
He was the first grandchild on both sides of the family. Or maybe Marshall had been born by then.
Marshall was the oldest, yes. Paul. That was on mother's side. But on my side, it was my first.
Were you the first
And the Schwartzes, yeah.
Schwartzes to have a
Grandchild, yeah.
How long did Mother stay in Chicago?
Oh, I wouldn't be able to pin it down to any amount because as soon as maybe in August, July, August, a month later, we moved to Gary.
How long did Mom stay in the hospital with after Sherwin was born?
They usually stayed 10, 12 days. That was the rule.
Do you remember what was done during that period of time? You were there at all to know anything about that?
I had to go back to work.
So, you kept the apartment in Gary? Okay, we'll take a break now. What do you remember about the bringing Sherwin home? What do you remember about anything you did for him, made special for the house?
Well, I tell you, the first time I couldn't find a house right away. So we moved into Gary Hotel. It was the second-rate hotel, or the first-rate hotel at that time. And I carried, I'll never forget, I carried the high chair with a potty underneath. And it was one of those high staircases where I walked up to the second floor. It was all marble staircase, you know. Just when I got on the top steps, what falls out of the high chair? The potty. Blank, 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 all the way down. And here I was holding the high chair. I didn't know what to drop first, and we picked up the high chair. We stayed there for about a week or so.
Remember what that cost? How much did he charge for staying?
No, I wouldn't remember that.
And after that, where did he move?
We moved to another place. I don't remember where it was. We only stayed there a short time anyway. And finally I moved into, let's call that Glen Park. Italian family. They lived down the basement. They had the basement fixed up for themselves, and we lived upstairs. We lived upstairs. We stayed there for a couple of years.
And during this period of time, you got into the printing business. Is that the time when you got into it?
Yeah.
Remember what it was like to have one child at home? What was Sherwin like as a baby?
What it was like? I don't know how to express myself. Of course, I used to run out with the bream, used to come home earlier and help mother, and naturally with Sherwin, as he grew older, he got into more mischief. But he made a lot of friends over there, made a lot of little friends because there was a lot of children. And there was our friends, Teresa and Jimmy, they had a little boy about the same age as Sherwin. Lenny. We had a little party in the back of the yard. We invited all those little kids from the neighborhood. There was a lot of small kids. We used to have little parties in there. Then we had a nice garage where I used to keep all my merchandise in there. And from there, we moved back to, I think, 6th Avenue. I opened up a little store, a little grocery and meat and so forth. In the basement I used for my premiums. So I had two businesses. Where the premiums kind of went down a little bit, so I opened up another store. And from that store and the premiums, I bought a lot. First time I bought Gary Land Company was selling out lots. $300 lots, $400 lots, and the FHA gave you 100% loan on whatever home you wanted to build. Well, after we looked around, we got an idea what kind of home we wanted. We got it connected with a fellow by the name Hess, who was a Dutchman. And also he was a contractor, and he had a friend who designed homes, whose specialty was to design homes. And he came out that time with a California style home where he didn't use any wood. Because being that we were in Gary, which was a steel town, he could get the steel beams and joists and window sills and all that steel cheaper than you can get wood. So the house was built out of steel and those big heavy blocks. Did you ever see those concrete blocks, you know? But they were made a little bit much lighter, and that's how the house was built. Steel and those blocks and the steel all around. It was one of the most fireproof houses. Yeah, the first one in Gary. That was 1941.
Yeah, I was born in 1938. Where were you living then?
1938, and let's see, where he was born.
Well, I was told I was born in the Methodist Hospital. Does that
Yes.
refresh you?
That's right, the Methodist Hospital in Gary.
And who's the doctor for me?
Rosenblum. He was our family doctor, Rosenblum. Every time something went wrong here, we carried, called Rosenblum. Sherman had a habit. If he didn't have it his way, he'd hold his breath until he got blue in the face and fainted. You know. So Mama got scared a few times. So she called up Dr. Rosenblum, came up. What's wrong? He said, I'll sure tells him. He said, next time he gets one of those fits, give him a good pouch of tuchus and walk out the door and close it up. He won't die on you. Don't worry, you're afraid. Just give him a good pouch of tuchus and let him in. And walk out and close the door. And that stopped his fainting. He didn't hold his breath anymore.
The doctor would make a house call for them.
Yeah.
So Rosenblum was a family doctor and also the obstetrician.
That's right.
So, do you remember what day of the week I was born? Was it during the week, the weekend? What time of day it was?
No. When you was born. You there, Mom?
The bells were ringing.
Okay. Hello?
Now, at the thing from Father.
You were talking about my birth. This was October 13, 1938.
Yeah,
I don't remember the day, but I was told I was born.
Yes.
You had a bris at home, basically.
It was, Mother was expecting. You know, it happened so that my cousin Sam, who was married that time to a very lovely woman, lovely girl, and her name was, I think her father's name was Marksman Drugstore, wealthy man. What was Sam's first wife's name, Mom? Oh, she wouldn't know. Anyway, she went on a diet at that time because she thought she was getting too heavy. Well, she took sick and passed away suddenly. When that happened, when they called us and told us what happened, we were so shocked, so surprised. And the mother started to get pains right away. And she couldn't get a hold of Dr. Rosenblum, so she got a hold of Dr. Richter, someone that we also know. Dr. Richter is a younger fellow. And so we wanted to go to see her at the funeral home before she was buried. It happened on a Friday or something. Anyway, on the way going, she got a pain. And I passed by the Methodist Hospital. And I said, let's go down and have them look at you. And we did. He says, well, it's coming. He said, but I would like to go to see before she's buried. He says, okay. I think it was Dr. Rosenblum was the one, Dr. Rosenblum. And he says, I'll go with you. But you'll have to come home. But from there you'll have to come to the hospital. Sure enough, she went over there and she did see Catherine, I think was her name, Catherine. And she saw her and she broke down and she almost fainted. And Dr. Rosenblum carried Mother out in a car and took her to the hospital. And that's when he was born. The day Catherine died.
So, were you with Mother when I was born?
Of course.
Well, I know you weren't there when Cheryl was born, but you were with her with me?
Yes, I was.
What do you remember about it?
What I remember? Because when Dr. Rosenblum took her in the called labor room at that time, you know, there was a labor room and delivery room.
There still is?
Still is. Well, I was there, and all of a sudden, her water busted. And you started to come out. And here, he hollered the nurse, and it was just Doctor and I were there alone. We were talking together. And she almost fainted. I said, did she faint away? She said, yeah, she went there, but she'll come through here and put this gown on. You help me until the nurse comes in. And how about she being born?
So, what do you remember, if the nurse was there, or did you?
Oh, after a while the nurses came, yes, and they cleaned you up. I watched. I was there. I saw the whole procedure.
And was Mother awake at that time, or did she?
No,
passed out?
she was after a while she woke up. He was the heaviest baby. He was 7 pounds or something. When Stephen was born, he was 5 pounds 3 ounces. We took him home. He was 4 pounds or 7 ounces.
You're talking about Sherwin?
Sherman. He was born 5 pounds 3 ounces. And we took him home after 7 or 8, after 10, 12 days in the hospital, he went down to 4 pounds and 7 ounces. But you was 7 pounds and 8 ounces. You were a baby, you were a big baby.
Well, what did I look like as a kid?
Like a kid?
Did I look like a monkey?
No, you didn't look like a monkey. You didn't have no beard, you know, nothing. Yeah, I show you. You had a little hair, you had a little pencil hanging, that's a bit.
Speaking of pencils,
That's right.
What was my grist like?
Fine, Rabbi Hyman was the one who was the mohel and the rabbi.
Yeah.
And he came over, and we had a bris rite, I think, at the hospital. And after you got home from the hospital, the rabbi came over now and then to examine you, examine Sherman. Rabbi Hyman liked to make his weekly or monthly visits to see all the Jewish families. I was a member of the temple.
So, how long did Mother stay in the hospital with you?
The usual time, I think 10, 12 days.
Now, yeah, that's why you had the birth in the hospital then, because you had
That's
the
right.
birth on the seventh day.
That's right,
Was that the same as Sherwin?
that's right.
Do you remember any special parties or celebrations that were, that took place after Sherwin's birth or my birth?